May I also acknowledge the presence of Dr. Richard Amenia. He's a multi-country director, Caribbean region, Jamaica, UNAIDS. Good to have you with us, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, December 10, 2023, ushered in the 75th anniversary of one of the world's most groundbreaking global pledges, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR as the United Nations refers to it. Now, according to the United Nations, this landmark document enshrines the inalienable rights that everyone is entitled to as a human being, regardless of your race, your color, religion, sex, language, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. The declaration was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris on December 10, 1948, and sets out fundamental human rights to be universally protected. Available in more than 500 languages, the United Nations says it's the most translated document in the world. And as part of the celebrations, the United Nations, they've been having a year-long initiative focused on universality, progress, and engagement. And those activities are recognized through what we do here today. Now, I don't know if the Office of the Public Defender was intentional in choosing this location for this forum, but the University of the West Indies is also celebrating its 75th anniversary. So it is fitting that this function is being held at the regional headquarters of this noble institution, of which I'm a graduate, and I know that there are many of you in this room who are graduates of the UWI. So the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is a milestone document in the history of human rights. The theme, freedom, equality, and justice for all. And I know that in their presentations, our speakers today will address different issues that are central to this theme. That is our central motif. If you do literature, right? So that is the motif, but they're going to digress and move into other areas. And in the decades since the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, human rights have become far more recognized and more guaranteed across the globe. Now, the UDHR has since served as the foundation, the United Nations says, for an expanding system of human rights protection that today focuses also on vulnerable groups, such as persons with disabilities, indigenous peoples, and migrants. However, the promise, the United Nations says, of the UDHR of dignity and equality in rights has been under sustained assault in recent years. And as the world faces challenges, new and ongoing pandemics, we've just come out of a global pandemic, conflicts, we're seeing more of those occurring around us, exploding inequalities, morally bankrupt global financial system, racism, climate change. Let me tell you, I agree with the United Nations that the values and the rights enshrined in the UDHR, we need them now more than ever, because our collective actions that do not leave anyone behind. So it is that the office, the PD's office, was able to pull together all of these very busy people to come together for one forum. So we have with us today the Honorable Marlene Malahoo Fort. We have Her Excellency Marion Van Steen, Mr. Dennis Zulu, Mrs. Diane Gordon Harrison, and we will also hear from the public defender, the current public defender, Mrs. Caroline Reed Cameron. Mrs. Malahoo Fort, you came to us just in time because I had you first to speak. I know that you have a very busy schedule. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I invite her to address us, and she has spoken extensively on human rights over the years, let me just share a little bit about her with you. She was appointed Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs in January of 2022. And prior to that appointment, she became the Honorable Attorney General of Jamaica when the Jamaica Labour Party, Andrew Holness-led cabinet, was sworn into office on March 7, 2016. She's a third-term legislator who has served in both houses of Parliament of Jamaica. She has had a distinguished legal career at both bars, public and private, and on the bench, highly regarded as a formidable, fair, and fearless prosecutor in her time in the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, with an enviable success in appellate courts. Well remembered and respected as a no-nonsense judge of the RM courts, who was a strong advocate for reform of Jamaica's justice system and a teacher of the law. Later as Consultant General, she has also successfully appeared at all levels of the courts, including before the Judicial Committee of Her Majesty's Privy Council in England. Mrs. Marlene Malahoo Fort holds a Master of Public Administration degree and diploma in Public Policy and Management from Harvard University, a Master of Law degree. She's a Commonwealth Scholar from King's College, London, UK, a Bachelor of Laws from the University of the West Indies, a Certificate of Legal Education from the Norman Manley Law School, and a Diploma in International Arbitration. She's a Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. She is also a Yale World Fellow and an alum of Yale University. And I think this is the title that she's going to wear most proudly. She is a former head girl of the Mannings High School in Westmoreland, Jamaica. And let me tell you what we're going to do before I invite her to come up and speak. As I introduce each speaker, they'll make a 5 to 7 minute presentation, if they're so minded to do. And then once that has happened, they will make their way to their seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Mrs. Marlene Malahoo Fort, the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
Thank you, Althea. Althea is an esteemed colleague from yesteryear. Beautiful, beautiful lady whom I admire and respect a lot. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the protocol has been established. Permit me, in the interest of time, to adopt it. I was not supposed to be here this morning. When I received the invitation to participate, I advised the Deputy Public Defender that I was scheduled to be in Geneva to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights. But the schedule has so many competing events, and as it turned out, I had to give priority to the duties here at home. And since I'm here, I advised that it would indeed be my honor to be here with you this morning. Let me first of all congratulate the organizers, the Office of the Public Defender and the partners, Your Excellency, and the other distinguished ladies and gentlemen, including our children's advocate, our Indicom Commissioner, former public defender, my colleague in some way in the Ministry of Justice, and the distinguished ladies and gentlemen here. As I walked in, though, I felt a little disappointed because a topic as important as this really should have a greater show of interest by the presence of persons, particularly at a time in Jamaica where there is so much tension in the society. And I think people seem to know their rights more than their responsibility. And I really want to say to you that as the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, with portfolio responsibility for the protection of human rights, I have spent a lot of time considering our own path in Jamaica, not only since the attainment of political independence and the promulgation of the Constitution of Jamaica, with the initial Chapter 3, with the rights that were guaranteed, and since then, the replacement of the old Chapter 3 with the new Chapter 3 Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom. But I've taken some time to look at the struggle, particularly the struggle reflected in the courts and litigation around rights and breach of rights. And I am pleased with the progress that we have made as a nation, and in particular as a government, in the guarantee of the rights and the suites of rights. But I think it's important for us to understand that the rights that are guaranteed in context. They are guaranteed to the extent that their enjoyment do not interfere with the enjoyment of others, the rights of others. And simply what does that mean? Is that recognizing that the rights are inalienable, as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights proclaimed, and recognizing that we are entitled to them by virtue of our inherent dignity as people. But right beside your right is your responsibility to your fellow man. It doesn't matter what is guaranteed. You can't enjoy it if those who are charged with securing it, protecting it, are irresponsible, and that includes the state. And so within the government of Jamaica, I believe that we still have a lot of work to do in ensuring that the rights as guaranteed are enjoyed, not selectively, but across all of government and across all of society. And so we have been taking note of issues as they arise. It's not just issue around due process, but conditions of persons who are in state custody. And the ministry is embarking on an intra-government legal education to ensure that all persons who work in government understand the approach that has to be taken in discharging the functions of office. Because the face of government that you see, it's going to be the face of the individual at any particular office who is discharging the functions of office. We have a tendency in Jamaica to escalate every issue to the highest level. So someone attends on the court, for example, and whomever is dealing with them, I'm not speaking about a trial now, whether it's in the registry or even at the tax office where they're paying their taxes. And if they have a bad encounter, they want the Prime Minister to address it. They want the Minister of Finance to address it. They want the Commissioner. No, we can't build institutions if we do not build the capacity of people at every level of the institution to responsibly discharge their functions. I have repeatedly said that the place to spot and correct a fault is where it occurs. And I think the work in government is to help everyone to understand that wherever you are situated in government, you must to the highest